everyone here, well, there's some that don't, but most people here know all about what I do.
They must really like you. So I'm going to ask if you're not in a place that allows you to put your video on. I understand. But we have John Walker here today, and it's really hard when you look at a bunch of black boxes with names in it, and you don't get that engagement and you can't see people's faces. So if you guys would turn your camera on, if you could, I would really, really appreciate it. I'm sure John would too. So the birthday boy, without further ado, 59, last year in his 50s, is here to tell us how he's so successful. John?
How am I so successful? That's a good question. Um, it's not a good question. It's an obvious answer to it, I think. And, it's like I always say when I talk to people, the first day I walked into a real estate office, I had sold exactly 0 homes. And last year we sold 73. So kind of no matter where anybody is in their business, I can relate to it. And I've been at 0 and I've been up at the high end also, and I've been everywhere in between. So I can relate to just about anything that anybody has going on out there. I did know when I first got into the business that there were many different ways to be successful in real estate. But in my opinion, they weren't all equal. And Steve Gaskins introduced Chris and me to the Buffini system, which was working by referral. And that was just much more appealing to me than, knocking on doors or cold calling or other things that just did not fit my personality. And so the Buffini system was really just about building relationships and treating people the right way, doing right by people. And within that, it gets returned to you through referrals. So I went with that system. Not even say anyone that's new or anyone who's done, doing fewer than 10 deals a year. If I were getting into real estate right now, I would focus on 2 things. The first would be learning how to do open houses to get some right now business. And the second would be implement the Buffini system. But you can really only do this if you have a database probably of at least 100 people. If you don't have at least 100 people you can be reaching out to for referrals, then you probably do need to do more, open houses, door knocking, cold calling, whatever it takes to meet people. And that really needs to be your focus until you reach that critical mass. So anyway, we got started in the Buffini system. And I'll also say that, when you look around our Falls Church office anyway, that whether it's Tim Pearson or Will Gaskins or some newer people like Rebecca Zemek or Steve McIlvain, Andy Musser's been around a while. I mean, the Buffini system really is the basis of what most everyone is doing. And the more that some of us have gotten into it, the more we've put our own twist on it. But that was kind of the foundation that got us started in real estate. So it's about building genuine relationships, and it has 3 arms to it, which I can go over, but I will stop every now and then for questions. Anyone have any questions on any of that? Okay, so there's 3 arms to this system. It's really about contact, it's about care, and then the community aspect of it. The contact, though, is what most people are already doing. It's about phone calls, mailings, maybe emails. And really the phone calls, I have a schedule of when to call every person in my database. And I'll also say this, I think it's important that you work your database first all the time. And I would say never contact anyone that you don't know until you have thoroughly contacted your own database. Those are the people that know you. Those are the people more likely to help you. So call them first, contact them first. I always kind of put it, why would you contact someone you don't know before you contacted everyone you do know? And then at that point in time, when you've gone through your database, you don't want to hit people too often. So then maybe you go do some cold calling if that's what you have next on your schedule. Text and individualized emails can work also. I say individualized emails, not mass emails. Make sure you are using the form of communication that that person wants from you. And you'll eventually figure it out over time, whether they respond best to a phone call, to a text, to an email. But make sure that you're not using text or email because you are too scared to pick up the phone. You've got to be willing to reach out to people. You've got to be willing to make connections. And we'll talk about some things in a minute that sometimes it's actually easier to go to lunch or coffee with someone than actually have a 5-minute phone call, particularly if you've not seen them in a while. So we'll go over that a little bit. In my phone calls, in my texts, my emails, I never mention real estate. Once they do, I am ready with a response, and I will have a answer for them about how the market is, because that's usually how it comes up. How's the market going? And then I'll also ask for a referral at that time in a very soft manner. But once I ask, I immediately move away from them and I move back to away from me and move it to them, the discussion, so that we're not focused on me and my referrals and my business. I want to get off that. The other part of the contacts is just mailings. When I first started, I sent out 2 mailings a month to everyone. The Buffini system's great, but it has one big flaw in it. And I think that it doesn't show that you're successful. And I think people want to help you. Friends like friends, they want you to succeed, but they need to know you're successful because they are also referring you to another friend. And they want to make sure you know what you're doing. So the Buffini has a cap item, which is great information about real estate, but it doesn't show that you're successful. So the second mailing that I added each month was a sold card with just the homes we had sold. There were some months when we had not sold any homes. So I went to other agents who had active homes, and I actually put their homes on a card that says, for sale. It's just kind of creating the perception that you're very much active in the real estate market. And one point here about that is be consistent. Whatever you do, be consistent. Everything you do says something about you. The frequency of your phone calls, the consistency of contact, the consistency of your mailings. And, if you get one mailing out this month, one in 4 months, one in 2 months, one a month after that, it shows an inconsistency to you. And everything that you do defines something about you. So you need to have a schedule for the entire year and then implement the schedule. A lot of people do a great job putting the schedule together. It's the implementation side where it falls apart. But be consistent with whatever it is you're out there doing. The third part of the Buffini system under contact is emails. They call them e-reports. I personally don't do these. And this is just my thoughts on it. I think it is just spam by another name. I am not a big fan of unsolicited emails. If I am going to email people, it's going to be personalized. It's going to be going to that person. And I do that a lot, but I don't do big kind of bulk emails out. I just think it's spam by another name. That's just my opinion. It has worked for me. And it also goes along, and I think this is the bigger point, with how I want my relationships to be with the people in my database. Because remember, everyone that I reach out to is someone I already know. I'm not reaching out to people I don't know. And so I just don't feel right about, kind of an unsolicited mass email going to these people. So you have to know your people. And I will say that as you're moving along in database, you'll get a lot of ideas thrown your way, and you have to, it's not about any one right or wrong way. It's that you are the master of your database and your relationships, and you have to know whether or not that idea fits with how you want your relationships with your people to be. And if it doesn't, then don't do it. Then don't do it. You're trying to set a standard. I will say, however, that when someone gives you an idea and you don't do it, number one, the reason can't be because you're too worried about what someone else might think of you or something like that. And also, if you're not going to do that idea, then what are you going to do? I think it was P.T. Barnum who said, without promotion, something terrible happens, nothing. So at some level, if you're not going to do that, then what are you going to do? So when people are trying to help you and they're giving you ideas and you don't like that idea, well, what are you going to do? because you can't do nothing. So you've got to find something else to do. The second part of Buffini is the care component. This involves personal notes, pop-bys, videos. Personal notes, I write a ton of personal notes to people. And I never mention real estate. Buffini even gives a little sticker. So this is my second place I diverge from the system. I don't do the emails. I send out the sold card, which they don't necessarily recommend. It's my third thing. There's a sticker that says, I'm never too busy for any of your referrals. When I write a personal note to someone, it is just that, it's a personal note. I don't put anything about business on there. I don't include my business card. You know, it comes across as, sorry to hear your grandmother died. By the way, I'm never too busy for any of your referrals. Doesn't really work very well. So if it's someone you're writing, maybe you met them at an open house, then that might be a time when you can then stick a sticker like that on there. They only know you as a realtor. That is the relationship. Maybe that's okay. But if it's a lifelong friend, you probably don't want to do that when you're writing a personal note to them. Pop buys. Pop buys are just a little gift. I think I've probably got one somewhere here. Here's some we've done. And we take them by people's houses. This one's just a little package of peeps. It says, have your peeps call my peeps. And it's just asking for referrals. Oh, this one's good. This was one, I only did this to the guys last year for Father's Day. It's actually a little thing of deodorant. It says, bad agents stink, but don't sweat it. You've got the freshest agents around. Walker Team stuff. So, you know, have a little bit of fun with it. We drop those off. About every quarter, we'll do a portion of our database. Just drop something off, remind them we're out there. Just inexpensive items, just another touch that goes beyond what most realtors will do. The third part of the care, you have personal notes, pop buys, is video. And I admit I haven't done much of this. Tim Pearson does a great job, I think, with video with his database. And I believe, you know, he's very effective at that. So he would probably be better on the video side. Just short messages. It could be either about how the market's going, or it could be a message about a special day of the year, something like that. Lunches and coffees, kind of getting into the community and bringing people together. So if you ask people, they would say, well, John built his business on lunches and coffees. And sort of true. I mean, understand, Buffini is an entire system and all this stuff works together. If all I did was lunches and coffees, and I didn't follow up with the notes or a phone call in between or the mailings that arrive, I would not be successful. So it is an entire system that's working together, and you can't pick and choose. And I've had agents say, I tried Buffini, it didn't work. And turns out they were just making a few phone calls, or they went to lunch with a person one time and there was not any consistency in what they were doing. And at the heart of it, it wasn't even about building relationships. It was about that realtor trying to get business. So if you're focused on the relationship and forget about the business will come. But if you go to lunch with somebody one time and, well, they didn't give me a referral, well, then you're kind of missing the heart of what all this is about. And I think you really have to understand that. And I'll say that if you're someone who doesn't particularly like people, this system will not work for you. And you know, if you know, go do something else, then go cold call, go do something like that. But you have to actually like people to make this work for you. So I would go to lunch, grab coffee, happy hour, dinner with people. Great way to build relationships. This does not have to be expensive. I'll often just go to Subway with somebody. I don't necessarily pick up the tab each time. Sometimes I do. It just depends on how it goes. If you're going to have a cup of coffee in the afternoon, why not go have it with somebody else? There's a great book out there called Never Eat Alone that kind of goes to the heart of this. You're going to eat lunch anyway. Why not go eat lunch with somebody else? Go eat with someone in your database. And I mentioned this before, it's a bit counterintuitive. When you're first putting your database together, now suppose there's an old high school friend out there and you're trying to reconnect. It's going to be much easier to go have an hour lunch with that person than pick up the phone and talk to them for 5 minutes. And so maybe the first touch is just to actually schedule something like a coffee or a lunch to reconnect. And once you have done that, then the next times become easier. And I will say that every time I have a touch with somebody, I try to remember something that they were talking about that makes it easier to pick up the phone next time. So maybe you're at lunch with someone and they're getting ready to go on a vacation. Maybe it's a Caribbean vacation, and then 4 weeks later you call them again and say, hey, how was the vacation? And so each touch can lead to the next touch if you actually set it up correctly in your mind. Okay, enough on that. Client parties. So client parties is a great way to be in touch with a bunch of people all at once, and a bunch of people who all support you too. So we started this off with just the office movie night. It's put together by the office. We would meet over at the time, gosh, back in the day at Boston Mall. Then we were over at Tyson's, and now we kind of do our own thing. Very cheap. Most of it's done for you. All you have to do is wait for the invitations to arrive, slap your person's name and address on it, and get it out the door and follow up with them. This was a great, easy way to do your first client party. Since then, we've expanded. I'll get suites at Nats Park right now. Most people can't do that, and that's okay. And if you're brand new and don't have much money, they really don't have to cost anything. You could just be the person that organizes 10 people getting together for a happy hour, but everyone's paying for their own stuff. Or you could have a dinner at your house or a barbecue in the backyard. So these don't have to be expensive things at all. You're becoming kind of the social organizer for people in your database who kind of would all know each other in that case. And that's a good way to get started. And then as you have more that you can do, more resources to work with, then you can move on from that. So that's the general outline of it. I will say about asking for referrals is, as you're doing all this, you're waiting for them to bring up real estate. Like I say, I never ask anyone to buy or sell a home. I only ask for referrals. Since these are mainly people I know, I would not want, in fact, I got a friend right now, he just got into life insurance. He wants to meet with me, and all he's going to talk about is life insurance. I know this because I actually met with him. It's kind of off-putting, and so I don't do that. I treat people the way I want to be treated. So I've never asked anyone to buy or sell a home. I only ask for the referrals. My friends know what I do. If they want to work with me, that's great. But sometimes friends don't actually want to work with you. They don't want to take your personal relationship and turn it into a business relationship. So just my thoughts on it. So I've never asked anyone to buy or sell a home. It's obviously not kept me from doing very well. I do, however, ask for referrals. The way I ask tends to be someone will say to me, how's real estate? I will have an update on the market and the time for that time. And then I'll say, so if you ever hear of anyone out there looking to buy or sell, let me know. I'd love to help them. And that's about as hard a hit as you will get from me on asking for referrals. I don't go much beyond that, which is much softer than what the Buffini dialogue would even be. But even Buffini teaches that you have to be comfortable with how you're going to ask for these things. Otherwise, number one, it's not going to come off naturally. I think this all does have to be very natural. So I'll just say that about that. Also, all my friends, I know while they don't want me asking them to buy or sell, I know they do want to help me out. And so asking for referrals is a very natural thing. Anything else about this? I will say about communication, you've got big rocks and small rocks. And the big rocks of the lead generation in the Buffini system are your coffees and lunches, your client events, and your pop buys. Those are face-to-face. Those are interactive. That comes first. Next would come your phone calls and your personal notes. Those are your next highest level of communication with someone. The next level down, I kind of go big rocks, little rocks, sand, and water. The sand would be your personal emails, not mass emails, but personal emails, personal texts, Facebook messaging, neighborhood snapshots, those sorts of things. And the water is just kind of your mass mailings and your mass emails that they go out to everybody. There's nothing personal about it. It doesn't really build your relationship except to the extent that if you had lunch with somebody, it's a touch in between other major times that keeps you at the front of their mind. But I don't think just doing mass mailings or mass emails is going to be a quick way to get someone to actually refer you. There's going to have to be much more personal interaction so that they trust you and know what you're doing. So like I say, Buffini's an entire system. You got to work the whole thing. You can't just kind of pick and choose in it. It's all about how you treat people. People have asked me, what should I do to my database? My answer is really nothing. Name me a person in your database and we can talk about the next best thing that you need to do with that person. And that's kind of how I approach it. I want people to treat me. I want to treat people the way I want to be treated. And when I use that as kind of my guiding factor, then my gut feeling's usually right about whether or not I want to do a certain thing with people or to my database. So that's kind of my big overview. I will say that Steve Gaskins and I will be teaching 100 Days to Greatness starting in May, which is a Buffini course. I think we decided this morning to start May 17th. And it's 100 Days to Greatness is really geared for people who are just starting out in real estate. They've got other courses, Pathway to Mastery and such. They're for people who are already kind of going. But that is how it goes. If you want to take 100 Days to Greatness, just email me or reach out to Steve and we will tell you how it's done. There is a cost to the course. It is not a free Keller Williams course. This is a Buffini and Company course, but you know, there's a cost to it, but you get what you pay for. And I think you will find, well, put it this way. I've watched realtors not send out a card because the card might cost $250. When if that card helped you get one sale, what would your commission be? Right? Commission at 400,000 and a 2.5% commission is what? Someone do the math for me quickly. Is that $10,000? 2.5%?
Yes,
I think.
that's right. 10,000.
$10,000. So you don't send out your $200 card and you miss out on a $10,000 commission. So kind of the same thing with the Buffini course. I think it might be around $500 if you're not a member of Buffini. And Steve always likes to work with people on that. So I'm not going to say anything more with that. He may find a way to cut you a deal. But I would just say that it would be well worth the time if you feel like you need it. And that's all I have to say.
Thanks, John. That was great. As you said, most of us have heard you say more or less this before, but it's good to get the reinforcement, and particularly what you said about those big rocks first. You know, the in-person meetings being much more important than the monthly mailings and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's not all forms of communication are equal. So some are more meaningful than others.
I have a question for you, John. Do you ever ask them if they already have a real estate resource, or you just wait? You said you just wait for them to bring up real estate and then say, I would like to, if you know somebody, and that's all you say, or do you ask them that?
Yeah, and that's part of what Buffini would say too. Do you have someone you would refer a friend to? That sort of thing. Mm-hmm. I tend to, early on, I was doing that, but I was trying to figure out how to do it effectively. Because, for instance, I've got one guy who his wife is a realtor. And so he said, look, you're never going to sell my home, but I'll refer people to you. So you've got to be careful about who you kind of discount and who you drop off. And if you are careful that way, then you will find that there's going to be people out there where, you know, another realtor sold them the home, that sort of thing. But the truth is, most realtors don't do a good job keeping up with people and reinforcing those relationships. And over time, you can often overcome that. So even with someone who may say they have a realtor, I have often broken that relationship and become their realtor just because of the consistency that I show within our relationship. And I make it a true relationship. I don't make it about real estate. I think that's the key with why this has worked for me. I, I, I'm the last person to bring up real estate. I'm the last person to talk about buying or selling a home. And it has worked for me. And they realize I care about them more than I care about their home. And I think there's times when you can really show that with people. During the recession, when a lot of people were out of work, I made the point to really keep up with those that did not have a job. And that would be at a point in time when obviously they can't buy a house, right? So here's this guy selling real estate. He knows I'm jobless, but he's still keeping in touch with me to see how I'm doing, looking for work. So when people are kind of down and out, it's a great time to really reinforce that relationship, and they will remember that. So that's the key in terms of, do they already have someone? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. It doesn't necessarily mean they've got a great relationship with that person, and I can form a better one.
Can I just make a comment, John?
Yeah, absolutely. You taught me most of this stuff, so absolutely.
Well, if any of you can imagine being John Walker, not today, not next year, not 3 years, but say 10 years down the road, how do you get to be a John and Chris Walker? Because I know better than John does that Chris has had something to do with this great business success that they've had. And you guys have to have partners too, whether it's your staff but the method doesn't change. And the thing that I hear from John and that I want to just give to you all is it's consistency. It's consistency of where you want to be next year, the year after, and the year after. And I've heard Eric Quadros, who's our productivity coach, who is like all over helping our agents become consistent in what they do well. And there's no conflict when you start talking about lead generation, because there are many ways to lead generate. There are some ways that are better. There are some ways that are not so good. But the one key thing, whatever method you follow, you have to say, I'm going to be really serious about this, and I'm going to be consistent no matter what. And that's something that none of us really want to deal with. None of us want to say, well, I can't imagine what things will look like 6 or 8 or 12 months from now. But if you don't get started with the basics, and the basics mean it's an outreach to the people that you already know, who are already your fans. And then you collect other people along the way that become your fans. And before you know it, how many people in your database, John?
About 750 now, but what's interesting, we started with about 400, but of those original 400, I think only 75 are left. Right. As people kind of identified themselves, or they didn't use us, or they quit returning phone calls, or that sort of thing. So people will self-identify, and as long as you're being very systematic and consistent, they're going to self-identify, and you can actually remove them from your database.
Well, I hate John when he says 700, because that is so that's the antithesis of what I preach, right, Tim Hong? I say you don't need to have that many, but who you do have, you must consistently and continually sort and qualify.
The problem, Steve, is we've sold over 400, almost 500 at this point. So who do you get rid of? But when you're first starting out, you're right. You need to focus on a smaller group. But I think at the same time, you do need at least 100. Yeah. If you don't have at least 100, then you probably can't work by referral effectively right away.
And I'm not in any way criticizing that people have these humongous databases, and you'll find that you can't help but do that once you have sold 500 houses or 400 in your career, that these people are your low-hanging fruit. But until we can get there, any of you who want to get there, it's not about any magic. It's about the consistency. And some of you that are smiling back at me, one of the first questions I will always ask, are you doing a monthly or bi-monthly reach out? Not to the world. I don't care about 99%. I just care about your little percentage, your little farm, your little group, who then, have a desire and interest when you call them and do these techniques that John's, talking about. but eventually you need to make the question, hey, if you were going to buy or sell a house or had a friend or neighbor who was, do you have a realtor? That's, end of sentence. And John, I'll let you take back over from there, because
Yeah.
those little bits of dialogue, and I love to hear you talk about your dialogue, because the things that we say, once we have a basic system in place, the things that you say and the way that you say them, separates you from everybody else, So give us some of your
Well,
key dialogue, John.
Well, now I'll tell you a little bit more. The whole thing about Chris and me working together, I would say that for everybody, that there are certain things that only the lead dog can do, right? And the lead generation. You've got to get rid of all the other stuff. And I watch so many agents who profess to work by referral, work the Buffini system, getting caught up in the details of the contracts and writing the contracts and this, that, and the other. And what I'd say is you got to find someone to do that for you. Your time is better spent. If it's going to take you, 2 hours to write the contract, what if someone else was doing that for you for 2 hours and you were out having a cup of coffee with someone else working on the next person? So I think that's vitally important, that you look at the Red Book, you look at what it's talking about in terms of getting an assistant, try to make that happen as soon as possible, whether it's someone that you have hired full time or whether you're using some of the services that are provided for transaction coordination for a slight fee. Once again, what does it cost, Sheila, for the transaction coordination service? How much is that?
$250.
$250. And I'll hear agents say, well, I don't spend $250. Well, really? Well, what if you went to a coffee and got another lead and got another $10,000 and let the transaction coordinator take care of the contract? It doesn't make sense financially. The math doesn't add up for you to be doing the transaction coordination. It just doesn't add up. You've got to put that on someone else's shoulders, and then you go out and find the next client. Otherwise, your business is going to look like this. You're going to get some business, then you get caught up in all the details of the contracts, and you close and you look around, you got the next thing's not there because you were so caught up in closing your last contract. So take advantage of the transaction coordination services. And at some point in time, maybe you realize, hey, I've done a bunch of business this year. I can actually go hire someone part-time to do this for me. But that's been the advantage of Chris and me working together, is she does not like to lead generate at the rate that I do. And I, quite frankly, I don't care about the details of the contract. And that's what she loves. So, that's what she's good at. I'm not good at that. Don't want to be good at that. It just works. You've got to, and when you go hire someone, make sure that they are not your best friend. It has to be someone almost completely different than you, because you've already got one of you. You don't need another you. You need someone who's not you. So, Chris likes the details of contracts, which I don't like. And
Did we lose him?
I thought it was me for a second.
I think he just got frozen.
You got frozen.
So John.
yeah.
Froze for a second.
So
Where did I leave off? Because I'm moving. I can see me when I move, but y'all apparently couldn't see me when I move.
Well, you were talking about things that I wanted to segue and bring Sheila into this just a little bit, because there are models that Keller Williams has taught us, right? What are they? Who can come up with our models? We're talking about one of them. Which one are we talking? We're talking about the lead generating model, right?
Lead generation. Yeah, this is all
What
about
are the other models that we've got to have down in our portfolio for our business?
Gotta
So
have
I'm
a
failing
financial
you as a
model.
team leader if you guys don't know what the models are. So help me out here.
Economic.
Budget model.
One more, create your Disney. One more, the organizational model.
How does that fit in? Because you were starting to go there, John, with the four models that we have.
Yeah.
And none of them can stand alone. And that's one of the things with whether you're in PC coaching or whether you're attending all of the wonderful training that David Donaldson provides for us, and Sheila and Shannon, and Melinda, all the people that are standing by. It's all a part of the bigger package. John mentioned the Red Book. So this doesn't, take the Red Book away. This is just one of those models that in some ways, without a marketing effort, nobody would ever know, what Coca-Cola was. Okay. If Coca-Cola didn't figure out how to get the word out, or any other product that you want to talk about. So I thank you, Sheila, that you have created an environment for us that all of these models fit together, and it's always a balancing act. But until you get this lead generating model, operating, which, thank you, John, for being so clear. You start on a consistent path today about what? Notes, calls, and pop-bys,
Yeah.
and your monthly communication with people, and then your parties. I mean, that's like the program.
And if you don't have any of the models implemented, the one to start with, lead generation, because everything else comes from it. You've got to get your lead generation right. No need to have a financial model if you don't have any money coming in, right? So it's got to be about lead generation. And for newer agents, I would say, you'll meet newer agents oftentimes who feel like they have to know the contract inside and out before they'll go talk to someone. Yeah, maybe. I know a lot of agents who know the contracts inside and out and don't have any clients. And without a client, nothing else matters. You've got to go get clients. It's people joining real estate because they have watched a lot of HGTV and think it looks easy. They don't realize that this is not about walking through homes. It's about obtaining clients. And without clients, it doesn't matter what else you know. So that lead generation model is the first one that you have to get right.
I couldn't agree more. For those of you who don't know, Eric and I, when we started out in the business, we followed Buffini too. We did notes, calls, and pop-bys. I had a Buffini coach. We started and built our business the same way a lot of people in our office built their business. We believe this is a relational business. This isn't transactional. That doesn't mean there aren't transactional agents out there. You'll find very few in our office, if you'll find any, because I look for agents that are relational, because I think that this is a relational business. So Eric and I did everything John's telling you guys to do. We were highly successful. I say notes, calls, and pop-bys.
Building relationships is easily, the other thing about it, and I say not all lead generation forms are equal. And I don't want to put down how anyone else has built a successful business. But the fact is, when Chris and I went to Cuba about 3 or 4 years ago, and you can't call anyone from Cuba, you can't use a cell phone there. And while we were there, we got 4 referrals. So if you're getting your clients by holding open houses or knocking on doors, then when you go out of town, your lead generation stops. But if you have built up a database of people who are out there referring you, then when you go out of town, your lead gen does not stop. It continues on, because you've, in essence, developed a little sales force out there that's promoting your name. So that's another way that, really working by referral has a leg up on most any other system that's out there.
I have a question. Do you grade your database, each person, give them like A, B, C, D, and what
I do.
What each of those designations mean?
Yes, I do. And when I teach, Buffini has, his definitions of A's, B's, and C's. I have changed that because I think there's a few holes in it that I found over time in teaching. And then I changed it again for me just because of the size of my database. So I think that if someone's just starting out, everybody is a C. Everybody, even your mother is a C. Everybody starts as a C. And then when they tell you that they would refer you, when they say those words to you, then they can move up to a B. At that point, if someone actually does a deal with you or they refer someone to you, then they become an A. But your mother is not an A just because she's your mother. You know, she loves you, she likes you, the whole bit, but until she refers someone to you, she's not helping you. Your database is not you ranking your friends about who you like best. Your database is not the people in the world who are most important to you in your personal life. Your database is about your business relationships. And so C's, everyone starts as a C. Those that say they will refer you become B's. Those that do refer you or do a deal with you would be A's, and that would be for the new agent. I've actually shifted mine around where my A's are only people who have referred me. So even if you've done a deal with me, but you've never referred me, you're only a B in my database, because my A's are the people who are helping me grow my business. And just because you did one deal with me does not mean you have helped me grow my business. But that's a shift I had to make once my database started getting larger.
Okay, and I'm going to get like Steve Nasty here at this point, because I see, you know, my good friends and people that I love and care about, but I can't tell you how many times just in the last 3 or 4 weeks I've had conversations with people, and I'm saying to them, your business is a little slow. You're not sure what to do. How do you get going? You know, if you have a business, let's make sure that's the first thing, and you got a desire to create the models, and you got to. How many of you have really honestly gone and qualified your best friends and your closest sphere of acquaintances and your family? Now, I got on brother Tim over here, right, Tim, the other day. What did I tell you? Tell us.
You asked me, you go and tell me, ask my sister to make sure that she will be referring me to her church friends.
And so did you do that?
Yes, I did.
How did it go? Tell us about it. What did you say to her?
It was very awkward, but it's all right. She said, I said, next time if you ever know anyone in church that are looking, please let me help them. The market is going crazy and I need a lot of listings.
That's all?
For now, yes.
But you said it was painful.
Yes, it is.
And what's your plan for follow-up?
Now that I know that you're asking, I'm going to ask her again what's going on. So no
What's going to happen?
Follow up yet, Steve.
And what's going to happen if she gives you a referral?
I have no idea.
You're gonna give her a Starbucks card.
No, I'm not gonna give. I normally do, but I'm not gonna give my sister a Starbucks card.
Tim, you brought me a Popeye the other day. You brought me in this wonderful basket of popcorn. Okay. So that was a Popeye. And you know what that did for me? It says, man, I want to see Tim do better. I wonder if I could figure out how to get a referral his way. Okay. That was the effect of the Popeye. So with your sister, I'm hoping that you're going to either write her a note, even if it's your sister, or send her some kind of a Popeye, right? Are there any other guilty parties out there that haven't really just taken this low fruit and gone for it? Because I could probably have the same conversation with every single one of you. When's the last time you sat down and really qualified the people closest to you? And if you haven't done it, go do it now, today. Sorry, I got started.
No, that's good. But I will, that is one thing though, we didn't mention that when you do get a referral, make sure you acknowledge the referral. And it, not only initially, but also as you're going through the process with the person who is referred, maybe they go under contract and you let the person who referred them know they went under contract. You keep them informed, you make them feel important. The whole transaction, you have transaction checklist. Well, our checklist is, did we let the person who referred them know that they're under contract or that we've closed or whatever the stage of it is? So these are all other easy touches to make.
And part of the dialogue too, for all of us, is promoting ourselves as the real estate resource person, right? That's one of my favorite phases. So people are always willing to hear that you're there standing by to help them. They're always wanting to hear, oh, you know, roofers. Oh, you know, moving companies. I had this great experience with Gary Feth. I see Gary on here. Gary, what did you do with that couple that was the, you know, you hadn't even thought about it. And what did you do with the moving company the other day? Remember that? Gary? He's hiding.
Sorry, I've actually referred Dan's 3 times in the last week.
But how did you do, how did you do that as the real estate resource person in your community? How did you go about that? I mean, and I'm not just picking on the moving company, but it was a great example of services that everybody on this phone call knows about in your own community. People that are needing and they're using services every single day. So Gary, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Actually, I just sent a note to a person that bought a house. He's an appraiser that I know that just bought a house in Williamsburg. He's going to need an appraiser. I didn't do his transaction, but I sent him Dan's today. Told him he should call him and get a quote. They did a good job. Shane is a great guy. We had a issue that was a communications issue, but he worked through it with one of the clients. But it's working out. On the Buffini flyer, the cap item on the back, there's a place for you can put for a referral to another company. And actually, I put somebody Steve knows, some guy by the name of Rob, and Highlands Mortgage on the back of all mine. And occasionally I change that up and I put some moving company back there. Is that what you're looking for, Steve? Just how do you do that?
Now I'm looking for the fact that I know John Walker, who's the sponsor. I hope I'm not taking too much of your time, John. Is
Yeah,
that
I'm finished.
you create value for people. If you're not interested in creating value for people, then you miss the whole message. You know, we're creating value, and there's so many different places where people are looking for value. You know, it's not just moving and mortgage and title, but it's any array of services, lawn care companies, you know, and you're the person that can be creating value. I think I saw Deb Roof on this phone call. Is she gone now? I just want to tell you, how many of you know and love Deb, right? You know how Deb came to me, how I hired Deb back in my early Buffini days? I put a flyer in a little notice in my mail out that I did every month. I said, I'm looking for a great assistant. I'm looking for someone to help me with my business. And you know who showed up? A referral from her parents to say, hey, go see Steve, which has started a long, wonderful, fruitful relationship for me and for others. So it's those kind of services, it's those kinds of value that I'm creating into the community when I'm doing my database, you know, marketing, when I'm doing my mail outs. It's not just a mail out, it's an outreach. And then John's giving you the key. Once you've done that, what do you do, John?
Well, you ask for a referral at the appropriate time.
Bingo. All right, I'm gonna be quiet again. Sorry, I get excited.
Now, I think it's, anyway, go ahead. I see someone else down there, but go ahead. Maybe not. Anyway, that's what I've done. I have people come in, they're kind of like, well, you say you do Buffini, what else you do? And it's like, nothing. And this is what I do. And I think that can work for anybody who implements the entire system. But you have to implement the entire system. This is not a client party system. This is not a go to lunch with people system. This is not making phone calls. There's an entire system here that has to be implemented. And if you do it, I don't know of anyone who's actually implemented the whole system who has failed. Let me put it that way. I watch people try to pick and choose parts of the system, and they do fail. Now, I will say this, you will always be better at some parts of the system than others. That's true for all of us. So the things you are not as good at, you have to figure out how to make that work for you. But you still have to do the whole system. You can't do nothing. That's the key. And then, the rest of it is, along the way, you're going to have failures, and that's okay. You have to learn from all your failures. I think it was, who was it? C.S. Lewis said, repeated failures are what finger posts on the road to success. One fails forward towards success. So you're going to have failures out there, but you have to treat it as a learning experience. And sometimes it's like you had a lunch with someone and it didn't go well, and you need to be self-reflective enough to say, why didn't that go well? So that the next time it goes better. And so everything doesn't happen brilliantly all at once. And as you do these things, you get better at them. You get better at having conversations. You become a better conversationalist. You have to be interesting. Listen to podcasts, not just business podcasts. The great ones, Freakonomics, they talk about all sorts of interesting things, right? Become an interesting person that others want to be around. And know more than just your little bitty section of the world, and learn to talk about things with people and make people want to be with you and become the center of the social universe that way. And anyone can do it. As Mark Twain said, they didn't know it was impossible, so they did it.
I can ask you a question.
Well, you want to raise? What do you want?
Yeah, can I have a raise? I sitting in your Buffini classes, these questions come up a lot. A lot of people ask, how do you write a note, and how do you keep in touch with clients after your transaction closes?
Yeah, so how do you write a note? Very short and simple. Very short and simple. Just enough within the note to acknowledge that you heard them when you were talking. I think that's the big thing. So my notes, generally, there's obvious notes, right? Congratulations on your wedding. Congratulations on this, that, the other. Sorry your mom died. Something like that. Those are obvious notes. The other ones are kind of acknowledgements of whatever the last contact was that I heard you. Hope you have a great trip. That sort of thing. Great catching up the other day. Hope you have a great trip. I look forward to grabbing lunch someday soon. It could be as simple as that. There's nothing profound whatsoever about these notes. What's profound is that no one else does them, right? So I get a leg up. That's the only thing profound about them. And then your second question, Shelby, was following up after the transaction. Mm-hmm. So we have a schedule for that. So from the date the transaction closes, we will then have a touch 2 weeks later to make sure that everything's still good, particularly if they're a buyer, what's up with the home, that sort of thing. Then after we've made that touch, we will have a 4 week later touch. So it's 2 and 6 weeks that we have scheduled from the date of closing that we will follow up with people. It's a good idea if it was relatively quick to maybe try to go grab lunch or coffee, do something more personal, solidify the relationship during that time, make sure they're invited to your next client party. But after the 2 week follow-up and the 6 week follow-up, we then kind of put them in the regular rotation. Obviously, I contact my A's more often than I contact my C's. So you put them in whatever the rotation is for that person and go from there. But we do have 2 initial very intentional touches after the transaction's over. And I think it tells them, hey, they still care about me, right? That my realtor didn't just get their check and run away. So I think those are very important touches.
I got 2 questions for you, John. Number one, when you do coffees, lunches, do you have a particular set of numbers that you want to reach to make you feel like, oh, you've done the work? Because I mentioned to you before, sometimes when we're doing Buffini, I don't really feel like I'm working, right? Having coffees and lunches.
Yeah. I think that's a real problem for people who come into real estate from having a regular job. As you start doing this Buffini system, you go home for the day and you had 2 coffees and a lunch and you made 5 phone calls and you don't feel like you're actually working and you start panicking. Yeah. Well, the one thing I can tell you, and we're not in offices right now, but if you're spending all your day in a real estate office, you are not doing what you need to be doing. I guarantee you, everyone in that office already has a realtor. Okay, so the only place you're going to find someone without a realtor is outside that office. So you need to be having these lunches. You need to be having these coffees. You need to be calling people. It's different. It's very different. And some people can't handle that mindset. Some people do have a job mindset. This is a business mindset. There's a difference between owning a business and having a job. In a job, someone else gives you the work to do. Owning a business, you are actually having to make the business grow, which means you have to be out there talking to people who can help your business grow, and not knowing if anything's going to come to you in return, but trusting and having faith that if you do this consistently, that it will work out. So I know what you're saying, Tim, about, you feel like you aren't really working because all you're doing is having lunch and coffee with people and calling and writing notes. Doesn't feel like a job, does it? It's not a job. You're running a business. You're running a business, and that's a different thing.
Thank you, John. My second question is, you mentioned about the 100 days of greatness that you and Steve are doing in May, mid-May. Can you tell us a little bit about the structure? Do you have to be a new agent to join this course?
I would say that you don't have to be a new agent, no, but there are better courses if you're already selling, 15 to 20 homes. I'd say 100 days to greatness is to jumpstart somebody's business. So looking at it that way, you could maybe be selling 15 to 20 homes, but feel like your business is stagnant and you want to jumpstart. So 100 days to greatness could work for someone that feels that way about their business. But particularly if you're a new agent, or your sales are below 10 and what you're doing right now you don't feel like it's working for you, and what we're talking about today is something you haven't really tried and you maybe want to give this a shot, that this will be a great way to jumpstart into that.
And I would just add, I think the magic of any system, whether it's, being in Eric's productivity classes or Drew Swirsky or following the things that are on our training schedule, that it's all out there, but getting consistent with things is where everyone falls down. So that's my goal when I take somebody through 100 days to greatness, or with John, it's like, okay, at the end of the time, I think it's 8 weeks, John? I can't even remember.
Probably a little more. I think this one's 10 weeks actually, but
At
the
the end
first
of,
couple of weeks you'll have 2 or 3 meetings, then it goes to 1 day a week after that.
yeah, after, so it's a checkup. It's an accountability. It's like, okay, don't talk the talk unless you're walking the walk, walk the walk, talk the talk. So it's for your benefit. I don't get anything out of it. John gets nothing out of it. The Market Center, this is for you to say, how can I become consistent in those little things that I know that I haven't really mastered yet? And once you get them rolling, they'll serve you the rest of your life.
Yeah, I think that's right. And it really does come down, anything you're doing in real estate, whatever course you're taking, you have to work hard. Was it Henry Ford that said, is my observation that most people get ahead during the time that other people waste? And I think that's very true. And there's been times I've walked out of this office at 5 o'clock and no one else is here. And granted, I just said you shouldn't always be in the office, but sometimes you wonder what people are doing. And you've got to work hard at whatever you choose to do if you want to succeed. Is that it? It's 12 o'clock.
5 o'clock, Debbie and I are always here. Lies.
It is 12 o'clock and time for us to wrap it up. I want to thank John for always giving back to this office and pouring into the agents. It is such a blessing. And then we had Steve, which was an extra blessing. They like to do this together. You notice that, right? Like they feed off each other. I love it. So if you guys want to sign up for Buffini for May 17th, just reach out to anyone. You can reach out to me, John, Steve. We'll get you signed up, and you'll get kicking on those notes, calls, and pop-ups.
Meanwhile, Sheila, I know you have another training that's starting out quickly. You want to mention that in case there's anybody here that's missed it?
Yeah, we have Bold starting tomorrow. That's
Everybody,
it.
everybody's quiet. Yeah.
Woohoo!
Cool. All right, it's lunchtime. Thank you, John. Thank you, Steve. Thank you all for being here.
Thank
See you
you.
guys later.
Thank you.